All right, let's talk about security's alphabet soup. You've got PenTests, ISO, SOC-2, PCI. It's a lot to keep straight. But what if I told you there's a really simple way to understand what they all mean, who they're for, and more importantly, how they all fit together? Well, that's exactly what we're going to break down right now. Does this sound familiar? I bet it does. You're getting pulled in a million different directions. Your customers are asking for a SOC 2, the board is buzzing about ISO, and meanwhile, the card brands are breathing down your neck about PCI. It feels like everyone wants something different, and you're stuck in the middle trying to figure out where to even begin. We're going to fix that and give you the clarity you need to handle all of it. Okay, so to make sense of all this, you really only need to get one core idea down. Everything we're talking about today falls into one of two buckets. It's either an attestation or it's an assessment. Seriously, once you get this distinction, everything else just clicks into place. So let's break this down. Think of it like offense versus defense. An assessment, that's your offense. You're actively hunting for weaknesses, right? The whole point is to find flaws. You're on the attack. An attestation or a certification, on the other hand, that's all about your defense. It's about showing everyone how strong your fortress is. The goal is to prove your controls are in place and working. One finds problems, the other proves strength. Simple as that. So let's start with that proving controls bucket, the attestations. These are the big frameworks for proving you have your house in order. We're going to look at the two heavyweights in this space, ISO 27001 and SOC 2. First up, ISO 27001. This is the global gold standard for building something called an Information Security Management System, or an ISMS. The analogy here of a recipe book is perfect. See, ISO doesn't give you a rigid checklist of things to do. Instead, it gives you a framework, a master recipe, for you to figure out your own unique risks and then build a complete, repeatable security program to handle them. And then we've got SOC 2. Now, if ISO is your internal recipe book for building the program, SOC 2 is the final report card that you show off to everybody else. It's not about building the system. It's the result of an independent audit that proves your system actually works. A CPA firm comes in, they check your controls against these things called the trust services criteria, security, availability, confidentiality, and they issue a report. It's what you hand your customers to say, hey, you can trust us. Here's the proof. So let's put them head to head. With ISO 27001, the focus is all internal. It's about building your program for your own management, and the final output is a certification. SOC 2, it's the total opposite. The focus is completely external. It's a report you generate for your customers who need that trust. And the output is that big, detailed audit report. See the difference? One's for you, one's for them. Okay, now let's shift gears completely. We've been talking about these flexible frameworks. PCI is not that. This is a whole different beast. This isn't a suggestion or a framework. It's a set of hard and fast rules you have to follow. Yeah, the Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard, PCI DSS for short. This isn't some government law, but honestly, it might as well be. The big card brands, we're talking Visa, MasterCard, American Express, they created this because they were just losing way too much money to fraud. So here's the bottom line. If you store, process, or even just transmit credit card data, this is not optional. It is absolutely non-negotiable. And when I say rules, I mean rules. We're talking about over 300 very specific, very prescriptive controls. This is where you really see the difference between PCI and something like ISO. There's no room for interpretation here. It's not about designing your own system. It's about meeting a massive, detailed, black and white checklist. You either pass or you fail. And all of those 300-plus controls have one single, laser-focused purpose. This quote says it all. Everything, and I mean everything in the PCI DSS is about protecting one thing, card holder data. Every single requirement traces back to preventing that sensitive info from getting stolen. So how do you actually do it? Well, the journey is pretty logical. First, you have to scope it. That means identifying every single system that even looks at card data. Then you assess your setup against that giant checklist. Step 3 is to remediate, which is just a fancy way of saying fixed all the stuff you found. And finally, you report your compliance to prove to the card brands that you've done the work. All right, so we've covered the attestations and the big rule books. Now, let's jump back to that other side of our model, the assessment. This is where we stop talking about paper and start talking about actively testing things in the real world. This is penetration testing. A pen test brings us right back to that offense category we talked about. This is the ultimate practical exam for your security. You are literally paying a skilled, ethical hacker to simulate a real-world attack and try to break into your systems. The goal isn't to get a piece of paper. The goal is to see if your defenses can actually hold up under fire. And a good pen test kind of unfolds like a heist movie. It starts with reconnaissance. The hacker is casing the joint, gathering intel, looking for weak spots. Then comes gaining access, where they try to exploit a vulnerability to get in. Once they're in, the goal is privilege escalation. Can they get from a low-level account to a full-blown admin? And finally, the most important part, they write up a detailed report showing you exactly how they got in so you can fix it. Okay, that was a lot. I know we had attestations and assessments, we had management systems, prescriptive rules, and offensive tests. So let's bring it all home and put it all together. Here it is, the ultimate cheat sheet. So, ISO 27001. That's your internal program for management, and the output is a certification. SOC-2. That's your external report for your customers, and you get an audit report. PCI DSS. Those are the mandatory rules for the card brands, where you have to prove compliance. And a penetration test. That's a simulated attack for your own security team, and it gives you a vulnerability report. And this right here is the most important takeaway. These are not competing options. You don't choose ISO or SOC-2 or a pen test. You should think of them as complementary layers of trust. A pen test proves your tech is solid, ISO proves you have a management system, PCI proves you protect card data, and SOC-2 proves to your customers that they can rely on you. Each one answers a different, vital question for a different audience. So that brings us to the final critical question, and this one is for you to take back to your team. Looking at your business, your customers, and your unique risks, which layer of trust does your organization need to build next? Thanks for joining us for this explainer.